What if the ultimate insult, the first slap in the face for anyone dreaming of America, wasn't the price of a cheap hotel or a $20 drink in Vegas, but a government decree denying you the right to even board the plane?
Can you fathom it? Saving for years, dreaming of the lights of the Strip, only to be ambushed by a brand new $250 Visa Integrity shakedown before you can even dare to book a flight. But for travelers from the wrong countries, that fee skyrockets into an obscene $15,000 refundable bond. All at once, Sin City's legendary welcome feels less like an invitation and more like a ransom demand.
This isn't just bureaucratic madness.
This is a dagger aimed directly at the heart of global tourism, a calculated act of economic self-sabotage. In today's explosive breakdown, we will expose how this shocking new cash grab threatens to suffocate the very lifeblood of Las Vegas and what it signals for its survival as the world's playground. The $250 Visa fee, a cold hard wall built of cash. The desert has always demanded its tribute, but in 2025, the price of entry is no longer a gamble. The toll to reach Las Vegas now begins long before the predatory resort fees, the outrageously priced meals, or the parking rackets. It starts thousands of miles from home in the cold, sterile interrogation room of a US embassy. For every single international visitor applying for a non-immigrant visa, a grotesque new $250 Visa Integrity fee now looms over them like a digital border wall. To truly grasp the insanity of this, understand that the US already held the shameful distinction of being one of the most expensive countries on earth to get a tourist visa for. With this new charge, America doesn't just climb the list, it seizes the throne. Eric Hansen of the US Travel Association warns that America is on a collision course to have one of, if not the highest, visitor visa fees in the entire world. That's a title of shame no tourism economy should ever aspire to. And why is this a death knell for Las Vegas specifically? Because unlike New York or Los Angeles, Vegas is utterly and disproportionately dependent on international visitors. A staggering 5 million foreign tourists flooded the city in 2024, injecting a river of billions into casinos, shows, restaurants, and every small business clinging to life. Yet today, at Harry Reid International Airport, the warning sirens are already screaming. International passenger numbers have cratered by nearly 10% in June 2025, marking 5 straight months of catastrophic decline. Canadian carriers alone are reporting a bloodbath, with double-digit drops in traffic. This is a terrifying red flag from a market that has historically funneled bachelor parties, retirees, and high-stakes gamblers straight into the heart of Nevada. The political panic is palpable. Senator Jackie Rosen is desperately pleading with Washington to halt the fee, warning it will cripple Las Vegas's already hemorrhaging tourism industry. Representative Dina Titus was far more scathing. This policy, she declared, sends a clear and hostile message to the world. You are not welcome here. In a city where 1 in every 4 jobs hangs by the thread of hospitality, that message is an economic death sentence. That message means fewer shifts for dealers, empty stools for bartenders, dark stages for show crews, and a tidal wave of layoffs crashing down on the Strip. Just imagine the horrific ripple effect. When fewer foreign tourists arrive, it's not just the Bellagio fountains that feel desolate. It's the taxi driver who loses his airport fares. It's the Chinatown restaurant that serves to empty tables. It's the convention center that watches its bookings evaporate into thin air. This $250 fee, supposedly created to cover enforcement costs, is on track to systematically strangle an industry already being bled dry by resort surcharges and runaway inflation. But the real danger lies deeper. These fees are not just numbers on a screen. They are symbols of contempt. To a traveler in London, Sao Paulo, or Seoul, this new charge is America slamming the door in their face. Vegas, a city once sold to the world as the ultimate escape, is being forcibly rebranded by its own government into an exclusive club with an impossibly steep cover charge. But if you believe a $250 fee is an outrage, you better brace yourself. You haven't heard about the $15,000 bonds some travelers may be extorted for just for the permission to visit. This is where the story descends from a nightmare of inconvenience into a hell of impossibility. The $15,000 bond, the ultimate tourism killer. What price would make you surrender your dream vacation? A $300 dinner? A $500 plane ticket hike? Now try $15,000. Demanded upfront, refundable only if you toe the line. That is the chilling reality behind the US State Department's proposed visa bond program. A weapon targeting visitors from nations deemed high risk. The official logic is a masterclass in bureaucratic cruelty. The stated goal is to ensure travelers don't overstay their visas by forcing them to post a crippling bond of $5,000, $10,000, or an unbelievable $15,000. But for millions of potential visitors, this isn't a security measure. It's a financial blockade. What family of four from Latin America, Africa, or Southeast Asia can possibly produce $60,000 just for the privilege of stepping into Las Vegas? The answer is they can't. And the result is a foregone conclusion. Those tourists and all their money will be redirected to places that actually want them. Paris, Macau, Dubai, anywhere but here. It's a horrifying picture. Vegas hotels turning into ghost towns, their suites collecting dust, and their casinos echoing with an eerie silence. Even the staunchest supporters of tough immigration policy are now frantically sounding the alarm. Alex Nora of the Cato Institute delivered a chillingly blunt verdict. These bonds on tourist and business visas will be a death sentence, convincing most foreigners to simply abandon any thought of coming here. The catastrophic result? A completely decimated tourist industry. Make no mistake, international visitors inject a lifeblood of more than $200 billion into the American economy every single year. That staggering sum is our export revenue. And Las Vegas, as the nation's glittering capital of chance and spectacle, is being set up to take a devastatingly disproportionate blow. The numbers are already painting a grim, terrifying picture. For 5 agonizing months straight, Harry Reid International has witnessed a sickening decline in international arrivals, plummeting by nearly 10% year over year. And if that doesn't sound like an outright catastrophe to you, then you are dangerously ignoring the terrifying trajectory we are on. International passenger numbers were just starting to claw their way back to sanity in 2024, finally cresting 3.2 million. Now, with these monstrous bond requirements looming, that fragile recovery is about to be shattered and sent into another terrifying freefall. The political backlash has been justifiably ferocious. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto issued a stark warning that these travel bonds will inflict significant, crippling harm on Nevada's already wounded tourism economy. Representative Dina Titus was even more direct, declaring that this policy screams to the world that visitors are fundamentally unwelcome here. That hostile message translates directly and brutally into lost jobs, empty chairs, and darkened stages across the Strip's hotels, restaurants, and theaters. And all this at the exact moment Vegas is gambling its future on mega events like the Super Bowl. They're banking on the World Cup and Formula One to reignite their global spotlight, a hope that is now being actively sabotaged. Just imagine the sheer insanity of luring Europeans or South Americans to spend thousands on a Vegas dream trip only to ambush them with a $15,000 insurance bond. This isn't a vacation, it's a shakedown, a hostage negotiation. In this city, perception is reality. The Strip's very existence is built on its reputation as a global playground, a welcoming oasis for everyone from Canadian retirees to Brazilian honeymooners. This visa bond doesn't just flip that narrative, it burns it to the ground. It paints the United States, and by extension Las Vegas, as a paranoid, hostile, and obscenely expensive fortress. And here is the truly insidious twist in this bureaucratic nightmare. While this bond might only snare a few thousand people in its initial phase, the toxic symbolism will poison the well for millions. Travelers who aren't even affected will ask themselves, if America distrusts me so much that I need a security deposit, Why on earth should I give them my money? That $15,000 bond isn't just killing trips, it is assassinating trust. And when that trust bleeds out, so does the vital stream of global visitors that is the very lifeblood of Las Vegas. But if the outrageous fees and bonds weren't a sufficient recipe for disaster, there's another, more cynical layer to this crisis: the absolutely appalling timing. With international travel already in a precarious state and global competition fiercer than ever, what kind of madness is this to deliberately pile on more costs? You couldn't orchestrate worse timing for Las Vegas if you tried. If there was ever a desperate moment when Las Vegas needed a lifeline, it is right now. And yet, instead of getting help, Washington has chosen this precise moment of vulnerability to chain more weights to its ankles. In the world of tourism, timing is everything. And this timing is nothing short of a perfectly executed catastrophe. Just look at the tragic numbers. International visits to Las Vegas were finally, painstakingly climbing back, hitting a hopeful 3.2 million. Foreign passengers moving through Harry Reid International in 2024. For a city that survived on the nearly 5 million international tourists who came last year, that momentum was critical. But then 2025 arrived and the floor collapsed. 5 consecutive months of decline, punctuated by a staggering 10% drop in June. Passenger traffic from Canada, for decades one of Vegas's most dependable markets, has plunged by double digits. The recovery was a pane of glass, and these new rules were the sledgehammer that shattered it. At the very same time, travelers are being assaulted by rising costs from every direction. The I-94 fee at the border didn't just increase, it quadrupled, from $6 to an insulting $24. Meanwhile, ESTA applications for visa waiver travelers have been jacked up from $21 to a staggering $40. Now, add in punishing airfare inflation, insidious resort surcharges that can tack on $50 a night, and eye-watering food prices on the Strip. And suddenly, Vegas feels less like an escape and more like a gilded cage reserved for the super rich. What makes this timing so utterly perilous, so completely self-destructive, is the global calendar. We are on the cusp of a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The United States is set to host the World Cup, the Olympics, and a wave of mega conventions. For Las Vegas, these were supposed to be golden opportunities to cement its reign as the undisputed entertainment capital of the world. But even as the nation stands on this precipice, leaders in the travel industry are screaming from the rooftops, warning that these outrageous visa fees and bonds are poised to sabotage America's golden moment. As the U.S. Travel Association itself laid it bare, jacking up the price of entry now means international tourists will simply flee to other destinations. And let me be clear, that is not some idle threat. It is a guarantee. While America builds financial walls, competing destinations like Dubai and Macau are literally rolling out the red carpet with frictionless entry systems, visa-free travel, and a mountain of incentives. Europe's Schengen zone offers a passport to an entire continent with seamless ease. Even Japan, a nation legendary for its cautious immigration policies, is throwing its doors open to stimulate its dying economy. And what is Las Vegas doing against this global wave of welcome? It's broadcasting a message of pure hostility. Pay more, risk a fortune, or don't even think about coming. Senator Jackie Rosen saw the disaster unfolding and sounded the alarm, desperately warning that these crippling restrictions will be another nail in the coffin for the city's already battered industry. And she is absolutely right, because the Strip isn't some academic theory on a whiteboard. It runs on the lifeblood of real people. In hotel rooms, at blackjack tables, and in roaring, sold-out arenas. Every single visitor turned away is not just a statistic. It is a catastrophic cascade of empty shifts for workers, of vanished tips that feed families, and of once thriving small businesses off the Strip being forced to board up their windows. Tourism is a fragile ecosystem built on momentum, perception, and timing. In 2025, all three of those pillars are pointing directly toward ruin for Las Vegas. These insane visa fees aren't just another financial hurdle. They are a devastating blow delivered at the exact moment the city can least afford another catastrophe. And as bad as the timing is, the perception it creates is a poison that will linger for years. Because while officials spew empty rhetoric about integrity, countless potential tourists across the globe are already asking a much darker, more damning question. Has America officially closed its doors to the world? Has the welcome mat been ripped up and thrown in the fire? The message echoing around the planet is chillingly clear. You are not welcome here. This is a staggering betrayal of the very promise Las Vegas was built on, a promise of absolute welcome, whispered by every neon light, every 24-hour buffet, and every spectacular show. The city's motto was "Come as you are, leave as a winner." But in 2025, that legendary invitation is being drowned out by the cold, sterile hum of a bureaucracy that screams, "You are not wanted." The new $250 visa fee and the terrifying looming $15,000 bond requirement are not just numbers on some government form. They are symbols of contempt. To an international traveler, they are a slap in the face. A declaration that says, "We don't trust you. You must pay an exorbitant price just to prove you are worthy of entry." That kind of insult cuts to the bone. As Representative Dina Titus of Nevada stated with brutal honesty, this policy sends a crystal clear message to international travelers that they are not welcome here. And when your core message is one of exclusion, visitors will inevitably take their money and their dreams somewhere else. You have to grasp the fundamental psychology of tourism. People don't just buy plane tickets. They are investing in life-changing experiences, in cherished memories, and in status updates they will proudly broadcast to the world. No one wants their dream vacation to begin with suspicion and a demand for cash collateral. Can you even imagine the humiliation of telling your friends, "I had to wire $10,000 to the US government just for the privilege of seeing the Bellagio fountains"? That doesn't sound like the beginning of a dream, it sounds like a government-sanctioned shakedown. For Las Vegas, this toxic global message is nothing less than an existential threat. The Strip thrives on its hard-won reputation as the world's playground, a sanctuary open to everyone, from bachelor parties in Toronto to honeymooners in Brazil. In 2024, our closest allies, Canadians, Brits, Mexicans, and Australians, were among the largest and most vital sources of our international visitors. Now, with passenger volumes from Canadian Airlines already in a double-digit nosedive, the horrendous optics of these new fees are just pouring salt in an open wound. If these core markets feel betrayed, the domino effect will tear through the entire Vegas economy like a plague. Meanwhile, other countries are seizing this moment of our self-destruction. The European Union is busy streamlining digital travel authorizations, while Gulf powerhouses like Dubai are advertising visa-free access for dozens of nationalities. Even our direct rivals in Asia, Macau and Singapore, are aggressively marketing themselves as the easy, hassle-free alternatives. By stark contrast, the US risks branding itself as a fortress, where pleasure is taxed and entry is conditional. And in this world, a toxic perception spreads faster than any statistic. A traveler in London might never personally be asked to pay a bond, but when they see headlines screaming about $15,000 deposits just to visit Las Vegas, the damage is done. The impression is permanent. Why gamble on being treated like a suspect? They'll think, when I can go somewhere that actually rolls out the red carpet for my business. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto put it in the simplest, most chilling terms. These bonds and fees will cause significant harm to the already hurting travel and tourism economy in Nevada. But the harm isn't just in lost dollars. It's a deep, permanent stain on our nation's reputation. Make no mistake, Las Vegas isn't just in a race with other American cities. It's locked in a brutal war for global supremacy. And in this worldwide battle for attention and every last dollar, its reputation is the only weapon that matters. And here's the terrifying truth. Once a city is branded as hostile, that stain is nearly impossible to wash away. Just ask San Francisco.
Or ask Paris, still reeling from the scars of bad press. But for Las Vegas, the stakes are monumentally higher. This isn't just about a dip in tourism numbers. This is a battle for its very soul, its identity as the one place on Earth where everyone is welcome. But this catastrophic crisis isn't just claiming visitors as victims. A far more tragic casualty is being ignored, abandoned in the shadows.
It's the very people who bleed to keep this city alive, its workers, its residents, who are now being forced to pay the price for disastrous policies they had no hand in creating. The devastating fallout for the workforce and the very foundation of the Vegas economy. When the world stops coming, those iconic neon lights don't just dim for tourists, they plunge the city's workers into darkness. A staggering 1 in every 4 jobs in Las Vegas is chained directly to the hospitality machine. That means every single empty airline seat from London, Toronto, or Mexico City sends a shockwave of lost wages through the lives of a bartender, a stagehand, a taxi driver, a blackjack dealer. The outrageous new $250 visa fee and the staggering $15,000 bonds are not just bureaucratic hurdles at the border, they are the execution orders for jobs right on the Strip. And the cold, hard numbers expose just how terrifyingly fragile this ecosystem already was. International arrivals at Harry Reid International Airport plummeted by a sickening 10% in June 2025 compared to the year before, marking 5 agonizing consecutive months of free fall. For an industry that had just clawed its way back from the abyss to near pre-pandemic levels, 3.2 million international passengers in 2024, this downward spiral is nothing short of a death knell. Every single percentage point of this decline translates into tens of thousands of empty hotel rooms, restaurants echoing with silence, and cavernous convention halls haunted by sparse crowds. The economic devastation is brutal and undeniable. Senator Jackie Rosen issued a dire warning that these visa fees would viciously cripple an industry already bleeding, down a disastrous 7% in the first half of 2025. And Representative Dina Titus hammered the terrifying point home with chilling clarity. Fewer visitors mean fewer jobs in our hospitality industry and more Nevadans thrown out of work. In a city where wages have been shamelessly outpaced by skyrocketing housing costs, every single lost paycheck shoves a family one step closer to the nightmare of an eviction notice or grueling commutes from the distant, cheaper desert suburbs. But the carnage doesn't stop with direct employment. The Vegas economy is a fragile, interconnected ecosystem. Taxi drivers are utterly dependent on the lifeblood of international airport traffic. Wedding chapels built their dreams on serving overseas couples. Chinatown's restaurants are sustained by tour groups. Even the city's prized sports empires, the Raiders, the Golden Knights, and the glittering new Formula One circuit, are banking on foreign fans willing to shell out those premium prices. If those fans are turned away by these new bureaucratic walls, the economic shockwave will ripple across the entire valley. And then there is the hidden psychological devastation being inflicted upon the workers. For decades, the people of Vegas endured punishing hours and chaotic shifts, holding on to one sacred promise: that the endless river of global tourists would always sustain their city. Now, as the planes arrive emptier and emptier, that sacred trust has been shattered. The workers are left with one agonizing question. What happens when the very policies supposedly designed to protect America end up strangling the life out of the city that symbolizes it? And the most terrifying part of this nightmare is that these jobs have nowhere else to go. Unlike the tech hubs that can simply pivot to remote work, the Las Vegas economy is brutally, physically anchored to this desert. A dealer cannot shuffle cards over Zoom. A showgirl cannot command a stage from her living room. When the tourists disappear, the work doesn't just decline, it vanishes into thin air. And this fallout is so much deeper than dollars and cents. It is an assault on the city's very culture. Las Vegas was always a global stage, a miracle in the desert, where workers from every corner of the earth built new lives by catering to the dreams of the world. Now, as the flow of international visitors slows to a trickle, the very people who built this city's legend are in danger of being erased from its story. But while the locals are forced to bear the weight of this disaster, an even more ominous question hangs in the air. If Las Vegas makes itself too expensive, too hostile, too unwelcoming, where do you think the world's tourists will take their money instead? The competition is already circling like vultures. Macau, Dubai, and a host of new global gambling hubs. Las Vegas once arrogantly stood alone, the undisputed king of the world's playgrounds. But in 2025, it is being forced to learn a brutal lesson. When you build your walls too high, people don't stop seeking entertainment. They simply take their money somewhere else. And those other places are growing stronger, hungrier, and more sophisticated every single year. Just look at Macau, the so-called Vegas of the East. In 2024, it's an absolute slaughter. Macau's coffers are overflowing with nearly $30 billion in casino revenue, a figure that utterly dwarfs what Las Vegas scrapes together. And the burning question is why? The answer is sickeningly simple. While Macau welcomes Chinese tourists with open arms, visa-free, and rolls out the red carpet for regional travelers, Las Vegas throws up a wall. A wall built of a staggering $250 visa fee and a nightmarish labyrinth of bureaucracy. Macau is playing chess, offering seamless entry and direct flights from dozens of Asian powerhouses. For the international high roller, it's not even a choice. It's a foregone conclusion. Why would anyone willingly battle a mountain of red tape when the world's wealthiest gaming paradise beckons with such ease? And if you think Macau is the only threat, you haven't been paying attention. Then there's Dubai. A city that was a mere footnote on the gambling map just a decade ago is now a titan in the making. It's a global challenger, armed with a perfect strategic location and an untouchable brand of pure luxury. And its most lethal weapon? A relentless, obsessive focus on accessibility. We're talking about Dubai International Airport, a gateway for over 80 million passengers a year, funneling in travelers from Europe, Asia, and Africa. The very same regions that America's draconian visa policies are actively punishing. And don't be fooled by Dubai's tightly controlled gambling scene, because the city masterfully compensates with unparalleled shopping, five-star opulence, and a marketing message that screams one thing loud and clear: you are welcome here. The difference, when compared to Vegas, where the first greeting is a cold, hard demand to pay up, is absolutely staggering. And make no mistake, the sharks are circling. Other hubs are sharpening their knives as well. Look at Singapore's Marina Bay Sands. It's not just an architectural marvel, it's a monument to ruthless efficiency, offering a flawless guest experience, free from the nickel and dime tactics of hidden charges. Monaco continues to reign as the European sanctuary for the gambling elite, while the Philippines is aggressively carving out its own territory, a budget-friendly battleground luring players away from both Vegas and Macau. The common thread? Every single one of these rivals is powered by policies engineered to attract visitors, not to drive them away. A shockingly simple concept, isn't it? But the real terrifying danger for Las Vegas isn't just about losing a few high-rolling whales at the baccarat tables. No, the true catastrophe is the slow, agonizing death of the middle-class tourist. The bachelor party from Toronto, the honeymooners from Brazil, the retirees from Germany. These are the people who are the very lifeblood of the city. The ones who fill the hotel rooms, pack the theaters, and keep the entire Strip ecosystem from collapsing. And if or when they discover it's easier and cheaper to vacation in Dubai, Singapore, or even Mexico's booming resort casinos, Vegas is on a collision course with becoming a hollowed-out shell, a city for Americans only. That isn't just a risk, it's a terrifying, apocalyptic prospect. Because without that constant river of international money, Las Vegas is forced to bleed its own domestic visitors dry. People already crushed by inflation, vanishing disposable income, and soaring travel costs. The CEOs on the Strip can preach their gospel of premiumization all they want, but make no mistake,
An economy that serves only the whims of the ultra-wealthy is a ticking time bomb, fragile in its best moments and a hollowed-out fraud at its worst. And be warned, the competition is already surging past us. As Las Vegas buckles under the crushing weight of its own self-imposed fees and bonds, its rivals are hitting the accelerator, racing to seize the global spotlight once owned by the Nevada desert. And if the Strip finally loses its crown, believe me, the fallout will be far more devastating than just lost revenue. This is a battle for the very soul and identity of America's entertainment capital. But the sickest irony of all, this grievous, self-inflicted wound is being torn open at the exact moment Las Vegas was supposed to be taking its victory lap on the world stage, with colossal events like the World Cup and Formula One, which forces us to ask the one question that should be keeping every casino executive awake at night. What happens when the global spotlights finally arrive and there's no one there to see the show? Mega events for an empty world. The empty spotlight catastrophe. Las Vegas has always lived for the spectacle, but what happens when you throw the party of the century and nobody comes? That is the absolute nightmare scenario now looming over the city as it gears up for the biggest global showcases of the decade, only to be confronted by a catastrophic collapse in international visitors. Just consider what's at stake. The Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix was sold to the world as the glittering, triumphant return of Sin City to the global stage, a magnet for legions of fans from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The upcoming World Cup matches in 2026 were hyped as a once-in-a-generation tourism bonanza. Throw in colossal conventions like CES, which has always been a fortress of foreign attendance, and you would expect every hotel room to be booked solid, every restaurant buzzing with life, and every casino floor overflowing with international cash. But here is the fatal catch. These blockbuster events are critically dependent on foreign visitors. The very same travelers now being systematically priced out and shut out by America's hostile new visa regime. We're talking about a $250 visa fee slapped on every single non-immigrant and potential bonds of up to a staggering $15,000. A policy that appears to be targeting specific countries, ensuring that countless potential visitors will never even set foot on the Strip. The timing of this self-sabotage is not just bad, it is catastrophically, unforgivably awful. Just look at CES, what was once the glittering crown jewel of Las Vegas. In the bygone era of 2019, before the world shut down, a staggering 175,000 people flocked to the Consumer Electronics Show. And get this, over a third of them were from outside the United States. But what happens if even a tiny fraction of those global tech titans decide this bureaucratic nightmare of a visa process is a slap in the face they won't tolerate? This isn't just about losing a few tourist dollars. This is about Las Vegas gambling away its very identity as the undisputed convention capital of the world. In a city built on billions from these very events, the fallout won't be a ripple. It will be a tidal wave of economic devastation. And the message this sends? It's a toxic, self-inflicted wound. These mega events are meant to be a beacon of global unity and spectacle. Instead, the world is seeing headlines of visitors being shaken down for an outrageous $15,000, forced into paying crippling deposits or enduring grueling interrogations just to set foot in the country. This perverts a global celebration into a terrifying cautionary tale. Oh, America is open for business, all right, but only if you can pay the exorbitant cover charge at the door. And make no mistake, rivals like Dubai, Singapore, and Macau are circling like sharks, ready to snatch away the very international elite Vegas is alienating. Picture a Formula One enthusiast in London weighing their options, Las Vegas or Singapore. One choice means drowning in weeks of bureaucratic red tape and bleeding hundreds of dollars in fees. The other offers a swift, painless approval and a genuine welcome. This isn't just a choice about money, it's a choice about dignity. Who on earth wants to begin their dream vacation being treated like a criminal? For Las Vegas, this crisis of the empty spotlight isn't just a problem, it's an existential threat to its very soul.
Its reputation was forged by packing stadiums, convention halls, and the Strip itself with a vibrant sea of humanity from every corner of the globe. If these colossal events implode because the world is told it's not welcome, then Las Vegas risks being demoted from the world's entertainment capital to a sad provincial sideshow, utterly dependent on a domestic audience that's already financially tapped out. And here is the truly cruel, twisted irony in all this. These were the very events meant to be the grand saviors of the Strip, the magic bullet to erase the pandemic's scars. Instead, they're poised to expose the terrifying fragility of Vegas's global allure. But beneath the grim statistics and the hauntingly empty seats, a much darker question looms. Has Las Vegas, the city that once threw its arms open to the world, been deliberately and cynically rebranded by policy into an exclusive fortress for only the wealthiest elite? This brings us to the ultimate question of reinvention. Can Las Vegas survive the very walls it's helping to build? This city's entire history is a testament to one core skill: radical reinvention. From mafia-run gambling dens to gleaming corporate mega-resorts. From $1 shrimp cocktails to Michelin-starred dining, the city has relentlessly reshaped itself simply to survive. But the question looming in 2025 is brutally stark. Can Vegas possibly reinvent itself fast enough to outrun the consequences of the very barricades America is now erecting at its own borders? The challenge is so much deeper than finances. Yes, a $250 visa fee and the threat of a $15,000 bond are absolutely crippling blows to international visitors. But the real cancer here is the message it sends. Because policies don't just regulate, they tell a story. And the story being broadcast to the world right now is that America, and by extension Las Vegas, is slamming its doors shut. This single act of policy vandalism obliterates decades of marketing that sold Vegas as the world's playground, a democratic fantasy land where anyone could show up and chase a dream. Reinvention now demands far more than just another glitzy new attraction. The city is now facing a desperate war over its own narrative. Can it possibly convince the world that the Strip's welcome is genuine when federal policy screams the exact opposite? Can it survive by desperately pivoting to regional visitors and domestic conventions, scrambling to court emerging markets as its traditional international lifeblood evaporates? Some believe the only path forward is to diversify away from gaming, to cling to sports franchises, music residencies, and even so-called family-friendly entertainment. But here's the fatal flaw in that logic. Every single one of those ventures needs a global audience to truly thrive. And this raises the most cynical question of all. Who is this reinvention even for? For years, corporate executives have been obsessed with premiumization, a cold corporate buzzword for systematically purging the middle class and chasing only the wealthiest whales. You see it in the parasitic resort fees and the endless surcharges, and the astronomical ticket prices that have become the new normal. Now, combine that hostile strategy with punishing visa costs, and the end game becomes terrifyingly clear. Las Vegas is on a collision course to becoming a hermetically sealed playground for the global elite, completely severing ties with the mass appeal that made it an icon. If the average middle-class tourist is told they are no longer welcome, whether by brutal fees at the border or predatory pricing on the Strip, what is even left of the Las Vegas dream? Some will argue that adversity has always fueled this city's creativity. In the devastating wake of the 2008 recession, the city made a frantic pivot, doubling down on conventions and spectacle to mask its staggering gambling losses. After the pandemic's chaos, it desperately clung to sports and mega events. Now, with international tourism under a crippling siege, one has to wonder what disastrous new model they will be forced to invent. But there's a fatal flaw in this constant scramble. Reinvention has its breaking point. A metropolis built for the masses cannot survive by catering only to the exclusive. Let's be chillingly clear. The stakes have never been more catastrophic. Las Vegas isn't just fighting for tourist dollars. It's locked in a desperate battle for its very soul. Will it endure as the world's shining beacon of unrestrained fun? Or will it wither into a hollowed-out playground, a private club for domestic tourists and the ultra-wealthy elite? That is the terrifying gamble the city now faces. And here lies the ultimate bitter irony. The very city that taught the world to bet big now finds itself powerless, at the mercy of policies it had no hand in creating. Can Vegas possibly survive the very barriers it has erected? The answer will determine far more than just the future of the Strip. It will decide whether Las Vegas remains the world's capital of dreams or decays into a forgotten relic of its former glory. This city once made a sacred promise to the world. Everyone is welcome. Today, a hostile wall of new fees and bonds screams the opposite. The question is brutally simple. Will this city rediscover its purpose, or will it wall itself off from the world forever? I have to ask you, after witnessing this betrayal, would you still fly to Vegas? Tell me below and make sure you subscribe for the unfiltered truth.